Avi Meyers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Check us out on YouTube. Anyway, community policing, caps24.org, and let's talk about a different subject other than politics, which we filled you with so much these days. Conflict resolution, which actually in politics there is no resolution of anything usually, but we are pleased to have the executive director of the Center for Conflict Resolution. I think I've got that right, otherwise please correct me. Marilyn Smith, how are you?
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. Did I get the title right?
You did, Center for Conflict Resolution.
Okay.
And we have been in business as a nonprofit for 30 years, since 1979. And we provide free mediation services. So when people
Wow.
are fighting, we provide neutrals, third parties to sit with people and help them resolve their conflict.
Wow, that's really nice.
It is, and it's something we're proud of. It's something that we spend a lot of time and attention training and educating people. In addition to providing free services, we also do a lot of training of mediators and conflict management training.
Now, what kind of training, so you do the training? Does the person have to go to school for these sort of things?
Well, we do. Our volunteer core, our basic core of volunteer mediators go through up to 80 hours of training, Avi. It's a serious, we really put them through the ringer. There's a 40-hour mediation skills training, which is intense, and most of that training is spent practicing. So there's a certain amount of talking, but most of it really is practicing. And then we spend another 40 hours really coaching, observing, doing exercises, more practicing before we let our mediators out to work with the public.
Wow. What kind of people come to you to get involved in this?
Well, a lot of people don't know what mediation is, which is why I'm really glad to be here today.
And I want to say hi to Ed McElroy.
Yes, me too, me too. So mediation, people when they get in trouble don't say, I need a mediator. They say, I need a lawyer. I need some help. They don't think about mediation. So the people who come to us are usually people who've been referred by somebody who knows that mediation could work. So we go out to the courts. We actually work in the courts of the Circuit Court of Cook County every day of the week. And we are working with judges, small claims, landlord-tenant, foreclosure cases, where a judge will refer a case to mediation. We also get a lot of referrals from other programs. So we do a lot of work with juveniles, first-time offenders, a lot of work with grown-ups who, neighbor disputes, community disputes, and a lot of work with families who are fighting over issues like guardianship of their children or how they interact when things go wrong.
So that's a pretty wide range. And,
Yes.
And most people would probably want to tear their hair out that they'd have to pay X amount of dollars and you don't charge.
Well, we don't charge. There are a lot of excellent mediators in Chicago and in the Cook County area that do charge, and there's a lot of uses for mediation, commercial, labor, employment. We really try to focus our services on community conflict resolution and on making sure that people who wouldn't be able to afford it have access to high-quality services. So that's where our mission is, to provide those services for free.
Do you have people that are regular mediators volunteer for you sometimes?
Yes, we actually have an active core of about 140 volunteer
Wow.
mediators. We have a staff of 12 very active people who are also mediating.
That's a lot.
It is, and it's, again, over 30 years, we've had a very, very committed group of people who work for us as volunteers and staff.
How many cases do you mediate at any given time?
Well, last year we mediated, we opened about 2,000 cases,
Wow.
Mediated about 1,700. Currently we're working, a lot of work on foreclosure mediation, getting a lot of referrals in that area. It's a community crisis that we really are trying to help with.
Crisis everywhere here, yeah.
Yeah. So as far as the numbers of cases, it fluctuates, but it can take anywhere from, an hour to several hours, depending on the nature of what people are fighting about.
Is this something that stretches out over different sessions, or?
Well, because we're a nonprofit, we're small, we're lean, we don't have a lot of resources to stretch out, so a lot of our cases we really do aim to settle in one session. There are programs such as our foreclosure program, where the sessions are, it is going more than one session.
Now, let me ask you, do people sign in advance that they're going to bind themselves to the decision of the arbitrator?
No, and this is an interesting point, and I'm really glad you asked that question, because the difference between mediation and arbitration is that in arbitration, there will be somebody who will make a decision, who will evaluate both sides and give an opinion and tell both parties what to do. In mediation, what we really believe is that the people who are fighting actually know more and they care more about what they're fighting about. So there is no decision maker. It's a voluntary process. It's a private and confidential process. And the mediator will ask questions, and the mediator will really try to get underneath what people are fighting about to what they really care most about, what they need out of this dispute or out of this settlement. So there is no decision being made by a third party. It's different from arbitration. Now, if the parties do come to a settlement, the mediator will help them draft an agreement that they can take with them, and it really is a form of a contract, any other written contract.
Wow, so that's pretty cool. So you really try to get a meeting of minds, a voluntary meeting of minds.
Yeah, and the goal is not for everybody to come out happy or getting along. The goal is that whatever brought them to the table, they're able to really engage in what do they most need, what can they give up, what role has, every time you're in a conflict, there is a large emotional element, and how can you, we're not therapists, but you make some room at the table. There's an acknowledgement of the emotional aspect of it, and there's a lot of reality testing. Really, what are people going to do if it doesn't resolve? Really, how is it affecting their lives, their livelihood, their future? A lot of our cases, because they are community mediation and family and friends and neighbors, even if a judge or somebody were going to tell them what to do, they still have to live together. They still have to figure out what's next, and that's where mediation can be very effective.
Very cool. If people would like to contact you?
Yes, thank you. If people would like to contact us, our website is www.ccrchicago.org. Our phone number, if I can give that as well,
please.
is 312-922-6464. There's an interesting point I want to get in, because I did say mediation is confidential, it's private, it's also voluntary. So a lot of times people will call us, and one of my expressions is that the devil is never in the room. The person who, the wrongdoer is never the one calling. So people will call and say, oh, I have a problem. But both parties need to be willing to come to the table. We will not force anybody to the table, and we will not advocate, so we don't take any side in the matter. So if there's two people fighting, we won't represent either side. So a lot of times people will call, and they may want to try mediation, but the person they're fighting with doesn't. So one of the key aspects is that both sides need to be willing to perhaps move out of their comfort zone, try something that could help, or have somebody tell them to try it, somebody they trust or fear. That happens too.
Very good.
Yeah.
Marilyn Smith, Center for Conflict Resolution, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.